subject to be taken up outside of class with your priest or rabbi or friends or husband or wife, but not in the class, and certainly not in your own research work. It doesn't lend itself to that. But in this second epoch, in the age of the research university, though the question of life's meaning had come to be put under a cloud of sorts, there were still, of course, many college and university teachers who continued to ask and ponder and explore it in their classrooms with their students, and to do so in a structured and disciplined way. These were, for the most part, not exclusively, but for the most part, teachers of the humanities, those disciplines which came in the age of the research university to be, to use a legal metaphor, the residual legatees of the older traditions of the antebellum college, which had put spiritual questions at the very center of things, spiritual and moral questions. But these questions in this new age could quite obviously not be pursued by the humanities teachers who had taken them up and continued to be interested in them and passionately engaged by them. They couldn't be pursued in the same doctrinaire and dogmatic way they had been in an earlier age, in the spirit of thou shalt. The skepticism and pluralism that had become pervasive in American life had, of course, infected the realm or sphere of higher education, as they had every other domain of American experience. And confidence in the existence and certainty, demonstrability of the one right answer to the question of life's meaning had all but evaporated. What was left was the question, a sense of its perennial importance and urgency, and a belief that to this question, a plurality of different and often even sharply conflicting answers have been given by the most thoughtful and imaginative men and women of the past, and that the best, indeed the only way to approach the question in an academically organized manner is to read some selection, to study some selection of the great works of the past in which these different and competing answers are, as it were, on display. And to, by doing that, expose the student who is being made to study these works to a range of alternatives which he or she, for the most part, we were well before the age of robust coeducation in American college life, which he or she can acquire and, as it were, put away in a kind of inventory or stockpile of possibilities for later life, for reflection and inspiration and guidance and controversy and debate. Through the deliberate study of a carefully arranged set of classical works of enduring significance and value, recognized as such in most cases over centuries of time, students are familiarized with some a range of spiritual possibilities in the presence of this fundamental question of life's ultimate meaning, and then invited to answer the question themselves in whatever way and at whatever hour seems best to them. In the end, however, these programs, which we associate, which we can associate, I think at least for the sake of convenience with the so-called Great Books programs and Western Civ programs that flourished here and at Williams College, my alma mater, and at Yale and Harvard and Columbia and Reed College and Carleton College and Pomona College and countless other schools across the country in the years between 1880 and 1940 or 1950. These programs and the culture of liberal learning associated with them came under increasing attack and were eventually either disassembled or allowed to languish and die. By the middle of the 20th century, a new period had begun, the third period, the one in which we are still living today, though I hope it is a period that is drawing to a close, and I actually have some reason to believe that it is drawing to a close. A third period began in which the question of life's meaning was no longer even asked in the deliberate and disciplined way that it had been in the second period. In the first period, the question was asked and answered. In the second, it was asked but not answered. And in the third, it ceased to be asked at all. That is our age, the age of pedagogical silence with respect to the question of life's meaning. And who was responsible for the demise of these programs and for the marginalization of the question and I won't say death, that's much too strong a word, but for the marginalization of the culture of liberal learning too? The very teachers of the humanities who had been, in the second period, the champions of all of these same things, and the principal carriers of those programs of liberal learning that had been designed to address the question in a structured way. Now, this may sound paradoxical, and one is, of course, entitled to ask what I might possibly mean by this. What might conceivably have caused the destruction of what had been for 75 years or more a vibrant intellectual tradition, the tradition of, as I call it in my book, secular humanism in American higher education? Many blame people who are upset about this and eager to find someone or something to point a finger of blame at, point a finger at the culture of political correctness, which they say brought into disrepute the great books written, most of them by dead white males, which had been at the center of the program of traditional liberal education that had served as the curricular backbone of the program of moral and spiritual instruction in the second period. And you know, I think there is something to this. The culture of political correctness has been, on the whole, a destructive force in American higher education. It has done a great deal of damage. It has done some good. It has opened some doors, but it has shut others to our disadvantage, the disadvantage of us all. And I say this as a fan of affirmative action, as a firm, lifelong believer in the importance of diversity in college admissions and in faculty hiring. But I believe that the introduction into the classroom, into the center of the instructional program, into the business of designing curricula and judging texts and weighing student comments of a spirit of political correctness has been, on the whole, pernicious and damaging. But having said that, I, I must say something else.